The Squirrel Who Wanted to Fly. Once upon a time, in a vast and colorful forest, there lived a young squirrel named Sammy. His fur was a warm shade of chestnut, and his tail fluffed up like a soft cloud as he darted through the trees. Sammy was quick and clever, always leaping from branch to branch with ease. But despite his speed and agility, there was one thing he longed for more than anything else. He wanted to fly. Each morning, Sammy would climb to the tallest tree in the forest and watch the birds glide effortlessly through the sky. He admired the way they spread their wings, catching the wind beneath them as they soared higher and higher. Oh, how I wish I could fly like them, Sammy sighed, his eyes filled with wonder. One bright and breezy morning, Sammy sat on his favorite branch, watching a group of sparrows darting through the air. They twisted and turned, diving between the trees with such grace that Sammy couldn't help but feel a pang of jealousy. "I bet flying must feel amazing," he murmured. "No more jumping from branch to branch, no more worrying about falling, just endless freedom in the sky." A robin perched nearby overheard him and let out a cheerful chirp. "Flying is wonderful, but you're a squirrel, Sammy. You're meant to run and climb, not fly." Sammy huffed. "But why should birds have all the fun? If I try hard enough, maybe I can fly." Determined, he decided to test his theory. He climbed to an even higher branch and spread his arms wide, just like the birds did. He took a deep breath, counted to 3, and leapt forward, flapping his arms as fast as he could. For a fleeting second, he felt weightless, free even. But then gravity pulled him down, and he landed in a tangle of leaves and twigs. With a loud thud, he tumbled onto the soft earth below. "Ah," he groaned, rubbing his aching head. A family of chipmunks who had been gathering acorns nearby scurried over, their tiny faces filled with concern. "Sammy, are you okay?" one of them squeaked. "I'm fine," Sammy muttered, shaking off the fall. I just need to try harder." The chipmunks exchanged glances before one of them giggled. "Squirrels don't fly, Sammy. That's just how things are." Sammy's ears drooped. He didn't like hearing that. He refused to believe it was impossible. The next day, he tried something new. He gathered large leaves, tying them together with vines to create makeshift wings. "This will work for sure," he told himself as he climbed back up his tree. He strapped the leafy wings to his arms, took a deep breath, and leaped once more. For a split second, he felt hope. He glided ever so slightly, but then the wind caught his wings awkwardly, sending him spinning through the air. He crashed into a bush with a whoo, shh, and a shower of leaves. Nearby, a group of blue jays burst into laughter. "That was quite the performance, Sammy," one of them chirped. Sammy's tail bristled. "I'll get it right next time," he declared, stubbornly. But no matter how many times he tried, whether with wings made of leaves, flapping his arms, or even jumping off a small hill, he always ended up tumbling back down to the ground. Days passed, and Sammy grew more and more frustrated. Every time he failed, the birds would laugh, the other squirrels would shake their heads, and the chipmunks would simply say, "Squirrels aren't meant to fly." One afternoon, after another failed attempt, Sammy sat at the base of an old oak tree, his tail curled around him. "Maybe everyone's right," he whispered to himself. "Maybe I'll never fly." Just then, a shadow passed overhead. Sammy looked up to see a great eagle soaring above the treetops. Its wings spread wide as it glided effortlessly through the sky. Sammy watched in awe, his disappointment momentarily forgotten. The eagle circled lower, finally landing on a sturdy branch nearby. With piercing golden eyes, the majestic bird peered down at Sammy. "You've been trying very hard to fly," the eagle observed in a deep, steady voice. Sammy blinked in surprise. You saw that?" The eagle nodded. "I see many things from above. But tell me, little one, why do you wish to fly?" Sammy hesitated before answering. "Because flying means freedom," he said earnestly. "It means adventure, going wherever the wind takes you. I don't want to be stuck just jumping from tree to tree forever." The eagle studied him for a moment, then let out a soft chuckle. "Flying is indeed a gift, but every creature has its own strengths." Sammy's ears twitched. "What do you mean?" The eagle tilted its head. "Perhaps I can show you." Sammy's heart raced with excitement. Maybe, just maybe, the wise eagle knew the secret to making his dream come true. Little did he know, his journey was about to take a surprising turn. Sammy's heart thumped with excitement as he gazed up at the mighty eagle. He had spent so much time trying to fly on his own, but now, finally, someone who truly knew how to fly was willing to help him. "You really think you can teach me?" Sammy asked, his bushy tail twitching with anticipation. The eagle, whose name was Eldrin, chuckled softly. "Perhaps, but first, climb onto my back." Sammy hesitated for a moment. "Onto your back?" Eldrin nodded. "You wish to know what it feels like to fly, don't you?" Sammy's hesitation vanished. He scrambled up the trunk of the tree and carefully climbed onto Eldrin's broad back, gripping the eagle's feathers tightly. "Hold on," Eldrin instructed. With one powerful push of his wings, Eldrin launched into the sky. The wind roared past Sammy's ears as the trees shrank beneath them. The squirrel's eyes widened as he watched the forest spread out like a green ocean below. "This is amazing," Sammy cried out, his voice filled with pure joy. Eldrin soared higher, gliding effortlessly through the sky. Sammy looked around in awe. He could see rivers winding through the land, hills rolling far into the distance, and birds flitting between the clouds. The world felt endless, vast, and full of possibilities. "This is what I've always dreamed of," Sammy whispered. Eldrin, however, remained silent for a moment before finally speaking. "Flying is beautiful, isn't it? But look closely. Do you see what the birds must always search for?" Sammy blinked and glanced around. At first, all he saw was the breathtaking landscape, but then he noticed something. The birds were always moving, scanning the ground below. Some were diving down to search for food, while others flapped their wings tirelessly to stay in the air. "They never stop," Sammy murmured. Eldrin nodded. "That's because the sky is not a place of rest. We must always keep flying, always searching. It is a gift, yes, but it is also a responsibility." Sammy frowned. He had never thought of flying that way before. He had always imagined it as pure freedom, but now he realized that every creature had its own struggles, even those who could soar. Eldrin turned and began to descend, gliding smoothly until he landed on a sturdy branch high above the forest floor. Sammy hopped off, his mind swirling with new thoughts. "You do not need wings to be special, young squirrel," Eldrin said, his golden eyes warm with wisdom. "You already have a gift, but you do not yet see it." Sammy tilted his head. "A gift? What do you mean?" Eldrin smiled. "Let me show you." With that, the eagle motioned for Sammy to follow, leading him toward a discovery that would change the way he saw himself forever. Sammy followed Eldrin through the treetops, his mind buzzing with curiosity. The eagle had promised to show him something important, something about a gift he already had. But what could it be? All he had ever wanted was to fly, and no matter how hard he tried, he had failed. Eldrin landed on a thick, sturdy branch and gestured with his wing. "Watch closely, little one," he said. Sammy perched beside him, looking down at the forest below. At first, he didn't see anything unusual. The trees swayed gently in the wind. Birds flitted through the air, and a few squirrels scurried along the branches. Then his eyes landed on a group of squirrels foraging for acorns on the ground. They sniffed the dirt, searching for food, but many of the best acorns were still high in the trees, out of their reach. Eldrin spoke again. "You see, Sammy, not all creatures are meant to fly. Birds soar, but they cannot leap like you. They cannot climb, and they cannot collect the treasures hidden among the highest branches." Sammy watched as one squirrel struggled to drag a fallen acorn through the dirt. Then he glanced up and spotted a cluster of bright, ripe acorns hanging just above him. Without thinking, he crouched low and sprang into the air, soaring from one branch to another with ease. He grabbed a perfect acorn and landed smoothly. Eldrin nodded approvingly. "That, little one, is your gift." Sammy blinked. "Jumping?" Eldrin chuckled. "Not just jumping, soaring, climbing, leaping higher than any other creature in this forest. You can reach places birds cannot. You move swiftly, gathering food with speed and skill. Your talent is not in flying, but in something just as special." Sammy looked down at the acorn in his paws. He had never thought about his jumps as anything extraordinary before. To him, they were just the way he moved. But as he gazed around, he realized Eldrin was right. No bird could leap from branch to branch like he could. No chipmunk or rabbit could climb the tallest trees and gather the best food before winter arrived. Excitement bubbled inside him. He wanted to test his abilities, to see just how far he could go. With a burst of energy, he bounded from one tree to another, moving faster than ever before. The wind rushed past his fur, and for the first time, he felt something incredible. He wasn't flying, but he was soaring in his own way. Sammy landed beside Eldrin, breathless and grinning. "I never thought about it like that before," he admitted. "I was so busy wishing I could fly that I never saw what I could already do." Eldrin nodded. Many creatures spend their lives wishing for something else, never realizing the power of their own abilities. But once you embrace your gift, you will see that it is just as valuable as any other. Sammy looked up at the sky. The birds still soared above him, but for the first time, he didn't feel jealous. He felt proud. Maybe he wasn't meant to fly, but that didn't mean he couldn't reach great heights. With a flick of his tail, he turned to Eldrin with a determined smile. "I think I finally understand." The wise eagle gave him a knowing look. "Then let's see how far you can go." And with that, Sammy prepared to embrace his gift like never before. The morning sun bathed the treetops in golden light as Sammy stood on the highest branch of his favorite oak tree. For the first time in days, he wasn't thinking about wings or flying. Instead, he was thinking about how far he could leap, how high he could climb, and how much he could accomplish with the gift he already had. Eldrin watched him from a nearby branch, his golden eyes filled with quiet approval. "You understand now, don't you?" the eagle asked. Sammy nodded. "I do. I used to think flying was the only way to be special. But now I see that I have my own way of soaring, through my jumps, my speed, and my ability to reach places others can't." Eldrin smiled. "Then let's put that to the test." Just then, a strong gust of wind rustled the trees. shaking the branches and sending a flurry of acorns tumbling down. Sammy's sharp eyes caught sight of one particularly large acorn, a perfect golden brown nut perched precariously on a thin, swaying branch across the clearing. The other squirrels below noticed it too. "That's the best acorn I have ever seen," one of them chattered. "But it's too far out. It'll fall before anyone can reach it." Sammy's heart pounded. This was his moment. He crouched low, muscles tensed, eyes locked on the prize. Then, with a powerful push, he sprang into the air. The wind rushed past his fur as he soared between the trees. His body twisted gracefully midair. And for a brief moment, it almost felt like he was flying. But he didn't need wings. His strong legs and sharp instincts guided him. With a perfect landing, he grasped the acorn in his paws and balanced skillfully on the thin branch. The other squirrels gasped in amazement. "He did it!" one cheered. "He jumped farther than any of us ever could." Sammy beamed with pride as he bounded back down, placing the acorn gently on the forest floor. The other squirrels crowded around him, eyes wide with admiration. "How did you do that?" one asked. "I just used the gift I already had," Sammy said with a grin. Eldrin landed beside him, ruffling his feathers. "Well done, little one. You have truly found your place in the sky, and just not the way you originally imagined." Sammy looked up at the soaring birds. They were still beautiful, still free, but he no longer longed to be like them. He was exactly who he was meant to be, and that was more than enough. From that day forward, Sammy became known as the greatest jumper in the forest. No acorn was ever out of reach, and no tree was too tall for him to conquer. He had discovered his true talent, and with it, a sense of joy that no amount of flying could have ever given him. As he sat on his favorite branch that evening, watching the sunset paint the sky in brilliant hues, he smiled to himself. "I may not fly," he murmured, "but I soar in my own way." Moral of the story: true happiness comes not from wishing to be someone else, but from embracing the unique gifts we already have.